Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and how did you get to enter improv art?
Well, my name is Mick Chow, and I started in improv like almost 20 years ago. And I kind of approached it like it was a master's program. Like at the time, I was just in Toronto working as an engineer, but I always loved improv because of Robin Williams. So, and they have a Second City Toronto there, so I decided to take my an improv class there. But funny thing, I was working so much, I signed up for a class, and I never went. I paid like paid like $200, and I never actually went the first time. So, so the next year, I eventually went to my first class, and then I kind of got hooked, and the way it started out is like $200, and you're in a class with 15 people, and you barely get to go on stage and do anything. So there were other options in the city, and apparently the alumni at Second City Toronto, the teachers there, they kind of teach in other like theaters.
Okay.
So there's one at the time, Toronto Theatre Sports. So I went to that one, and that was awesome. I paid like $5 for a class.
That's cheap.
And there were only like 3 people, and they have a night where they perform, and that was like a Friday night. And Saturday night was the class, and then the advanced classes were on Wednesday night. So they eventually let me take the advanced class after I learned a bit. And then after that, I got to go on stage.
And how was it like first time on stage?
I was scared.
Really?
There's like lights.
Describe the feeling.
I've never been on stage before. I've never had a drama background.
Right.
And you're on stage, and there's like this light just shining on your face, and I can't see anything. I'm like blinded by it.
And was
I'm not
a lot
used
of
to
people
it.
there? Like a lot of people were watching?
On average, in that theater, about, we'll say 5 people.
Okay. But it's still scary for a
audience-
first time, yeah.
The audience isn't great. There are some nights where it kind of fills up. When I say fill up, it's like 20 people, which is like friends of the performers kind of thing. But it's a great opportunity to practice and work on your craft. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. So that year, I trained with Toronto Theatre Sports and went to the classes and went to the shows, and they were really good, very supportive. And you can tell I had no acting experience, but I was funny. So
You
just
knew
that
you were
alone,
funny right away.
they were supportive.
Right.
Yeah, they helped me out. And thanks to that support, I got over that hump. And I got to get comfortable and learn how to act bit by bit. And I started taking acting classes too. That kind of helped.
Where did you take your acting classes?
George Brown College, for
Okay.
one. And then there's other workshops and things you can take.
And
so I did that.
they help along with improv?
Yeah. There's it helps with the performance skills, that part.
I'm curious, what fascinated you with improv? Well, when was it like, you know what, I want to do improv? When was that?
I've always
Why?
been creative. I was one of those kids that made people laugh when they were young. Go to like family outings and parties, and I liked entertaining.
So you just knew that this is for you.
Improv is my thing. It's just, improv itself, the definition of improv is actually a creativity. It doesn't necessarily mean theater, but it's applied to theater. Yeah. But in the raw form, improv is about creativity and nurturing that creativity.
So can you improv things that are not like a character acting?
Yeah, like not like acting, like in sports.
Okay.
Actually, there's corporate training in improv, where they go to companies and companies hire like Second City to come in and corporate train, and they do like team building. They do like exercises, creative exercises to help, say, an advertising agency. The employees get creative and come up with ideas. And there's team building just to help people interact with each other. So people get comfortable speaking and help nurture their personality, help bring that out. Yeah.
And how do you learn improv? What is the first step?
Oh, wow. Jeez. That's like a long process. How do you learn improv? Helps by taking classes.
Okay.
It's something that you can't Google. You have to do it. It's one of those things you just can't get away with Googling. So doing is very important, and actually going up and practicing the games and performing in front of an audience if you want to do the performance arts approach. There's a lot of people who are not actors that take improv, and it's helped them a lot. I've met people who were like a math professor. He was one of my classmates back then. His name is Jeff Rosenthal.
Interesting.
He went to Harvard, taught. He's a math professor at U of T, and since then he's the music director around Toronto. When there's an improv show, he'll be the guy playing the music, and it's not scripted. He just plays whatever the mood
improvises?
is. He improvises the music.
I think that's actually one of the benefits of improv, in my opinion, to learn music.
Yeah,
Because
and
music is very free-flowing, in my opinion.
it's called jazz.
Yeah.
And music's called jazz.
Yeah.
It's just free flowing.
Yeah, I
So
know
there's
jazz.
different forms of improv out there.
Right.
Yeah. Music's called jazz.
Good to know. So can you tell me more about Second City?
Okay.
What
there are
is so
two
special about
schools. Yep. I studied at Second City, like I mentioned, Second City, Toronto.
Right.
And how that originated was there's a person named Viola Spolin.
Mm-hmm.
This is way back. She started her style of improv. I don't know when, but it started in Chicago, and that's the Second City Chicago style of improv. That's their basis. And you'll find that a lot of the actors performing at Saturday Night Live came from Second City, Chicago. That's because Viola Spolin's focus on improv is the acting side. They do like sketch and acting scenes. That's their approach. Theater sports it was created by Keith Johnstone. He's
Okay.
a professor at Calgary, or may still be. And there's a theater in Calgary called Loose Moose, so was part of that. So his style is theater sports. And I went to Vancouver Theater Sports, and some of the alumni that went through there, which you probably know, Wayne Brady. Actually, I don't think he went there. But Colin Mockery and Ryan Stiles went through there, and they performed with Wayne Brady on Whose Line Is It Anyways?
Okay. Yeah.
So if you're familiar with that show, that's theater sports. So they play theater games.
Right.
So those guys, some don't end up being actors because that style of improv doesn't really help you with your acting skills. But the Viola Spolin style, Second City, where people like Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi came out of, and Mike Myers, they're actors. So
Successful
yeah,
ones.
it's a different approach. But theater sports is pure improv, and they
Yeah.
play theater games, which is easier for anybody to get into.
So this is
Second
more
City,
for the beginners, and this is more like an advanced.
Yep. To learn improv, I would suggest this. It's very easy. When
Right.
you do theater games, the games itself kind of lead you the way. You don't have to
Right,
think too hard. Just play the game, and you can do fine in your scene. It's a game scene. When you do scene work, that's totally hard, because then you have to write, you have to direct in your head, and you have to be the actor as well. So you need kind of a basis for that.
Right.
Yeah.
And do they teach you the basis for that?
It's a long process. Actually, the acting style that they taught when I was studying the improv there, they taught method acting.
Okay.
So that's part of the
tough.
method acting
Yeah.
is their approach.
And you actually learned.
Yeah, and then I studied some method acting in acting classes as well.
Can you give me a role that you did method acting practice for?
A role.
Like an example of a role you chose?
Well, there was an exercise, and there's something in improv when you portray a character. They teach us to play the character to the highest of its intelligence. So they told us to think of somebody that you hate and portray that character. So we each, one by one, would sit in a chair and get interviewed by the class, and we had to portray and answer as that person.
The one you hate.
Yeah. So, for example, if you were to play Hitler,
Okay.
you don't go, "Oh, I'm evil, and be evil." No, from his point of view, he's right. So you're playing him to the highest of his intelligence. So from his point of view, he's right in all his views. So you got to play it that way.
So it's almost like he's a good guy, kind of.
To him.
To him, to himself.
Right. So you don't go, oh, I'm a horrible person. So yeah, that's not the right acting approach.
Right.
So that's what they teach you.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see you do that. I want an example of that now.
Yeah. So yeah, and they teach you a lot about characterization, portraying characters as well. It's really good.
Do you get to create your own characters, or you have to pick some famous
You'll
person?
notice that if you watch commercials, a lot of the actors in these commercials, they used to be improv actors. You know why? Because they can play a character. When you do a commercial, they can hand you a script and tell you this is your character. And improv actors are really good at doing that right away. That's why they hire improv actors. They're really good at doing that. And you don't have a lot of time to play, like think about the background of this character, the exposition,
Right,
all that
they're
stuff.
just more
You
efficient.
just, bam, this is your voice, this is your character. You play pirate, I'm a pirate.
I'm curious,
You work on
though,
a voice.
like-
Because this is what we do in our acting, in our improv scenes. We do different voices.
Do you get to practice vocals
When
and
you're
stuff?
when you're doing a show, you're playing different characters, and sometimes there are games where you have to play a different character in the same scene. It's
But
fun.
then, doesn't it require you to learn how to do different voices and?
You practice.
And do you,
get
practice,
good at it.
Do you practice it with the class, or you have to actually go home and do that on your
You can
own?
do that. There's some people that are very dedicated to practice, but you practice in the workshops and the
Is
shows.
there potentially a character where someone cannot portray? Like,
Oh, I'm sure.
like can you like, I can't do this character. I'm an improv artist, but I can't do this.
There's a joke I tell people.
Okay,
Like we have to do accents,
okay.
like German accents, Japanese accents. I'll tell people I'm horrible at doing Chinese accents. You know why? You know why? Because I never listen to my parents. It's like the worst accent I can do. I just can't do that one too well.
That's a funny one. So in terms of studying, did you actually have to get books and like to go to lectures, or it's just purely
did.
hands-on?
I had my method acting book that I kept with me. That's my little thing that I go to. I'll just read a little bit before I go on.
like a
And it
reference for you.
Yeah, a little reference, and then I'll just practice some things.
Right now, in terms of your background in martial arts, how did that
Oh.
help you with?
Ooh, thank you for that.
Yeah, I need to know about that. I know you're.
Yeah, we talked about that before the
Yeah.
interview. Actually, I got interested in Aikido,
Right.
which was a lucky choice because I picked that before I got into improv. I didn't know much about improv at the time, and I was looking for a martial art. And I just so happened at the time I really liked Steven Seagal movies, so I'll learn that one, which turns out to be one of the hardest martial arts to learn. It takes a while. It's not your typical punching, kicking kind of.
There's a
martial art.
method to it.
There's it's harmonizing. It's utilizing the attacker's energy, and there's no blocking, which is interesting because the basics in improv is they teach you not to block. You accept it, or you yes and everything.
Can you give me an example of where someone would block something in an improv, like a scenario?
Oh yeah.
Just curious how it would be.
Oh yeah. Here's this letter for you, and the block is that's not a letter. That's a bird.
But then,
So, but what you're supposed to do is say yes, that is a letter. I'm
yeah.
accepting this is a letter.
but can't you counter block that
Well,
in a way?
see, the problem is when you're blocking, that means I have this idea. I don't want to accept what you're giving me. I pre-planned this idea.
I see.
And I'm going to take what I wanted to pre-plan. See, that's not improv.
I see.
Improv is being in the moment. Mm-hmm. When somebody says, I'm giving you this, then this is it now. Now you have to react to what that person gave you.
Right.
Be quick about it.
Right.
So that shows you that you didn't pre-plan anything. That's improv. Not
Now it
pre-planning.
makes sense, yeah.
You're reacting to everything that's
It's all
given to you.
reaction.
All reaction. And then the audience can see, hey, he
What
made
if
that
you
up on the
don't know
spot.
how to react? Is that also improv? Can you improv? You don't know. Like
You gotta.
you gotta know.
That's the basics. Accepting, yes, anding, and then giving something back to the other actor. You have to give something back as well. You have to think about the other person, not
Right.
just what you want to say, what you want to do.
Right. So it's
You
a
have to
process.
try to make somebody else look good. Mm-hmm. That's another basis. Yeah.
So because it's two people,
That's right.
and you can improv with more than two, obviously. you can have a
There
group of people
have been
improvising?
shows where it's a one-man show kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of experimental stuff going
Right.
on. But typically, the typical improv is to be on stage with somebody else. Otherwise, it's stand-up, really.
Is most improv comedy based, or
They try to be.
Any reason
Sometimes
for
for
that?
a beginner, that's a mistake when they try to be funny. When a newbie tries to be funny, it causes problems. So the teacher will have them just play it straight, just focus on the improv part, the basics, and worry about the funny after. Sometimes when we're being funny, it kind of stops the scene. Like you're not accepting what the person's giving you. Just
You're
thinking
imposing.
About, yeah, you're just thinking too hard about jokes,
Oh,
being jokey.
right.
Yeah, that's not improv.
It's interesting. From what I'm getting out of this is there's a quality of controlling your mind in a way. You have to-
training it.
Not
There's
maybe
different approach.
controlling, maybe just steering your mind.
Being
is-
more open, being
yeah.
more accepting, being more fluid,
Right.
right? Not just
Reminds
about,
me a lot of
my ideas.
a lot of the Chinese philosophy, Wu Wei, where you just go with the flow, free flow.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, you just go with the flow, and go with the flow, just like nature goes with the flow, you know.
And they didn't just come up with this stuff off the bat. They practice it, like the yes anding stuff. Like this professor Keith Johnstone, they came up with these basics for a reason because that's what works. That's what works in the scene. When you yes and things, when you say no all the time, when you block somebody, it doesn't go anywhere. The scene. So there's a reason why they do what they do with the yes anding and other philosophers, why they come up with that, because they learned that's what works. Right? There's a reason how they come up with that. Yeah.
Lost my train of thoughts. In terms of improv for students, like how can that help them? Like in a school, how can improv help you as a student? Can you become a
Creativity.
better student?
It'll teach you to be fearless. It'll teach you to interact, be comfortable with people, and be comfortable with yourself.
So a shy person can benefit a lot from improv.
When I started one of the classes, we do an intro with the teacher, and I think I made a mistake by saying this. I told my teacher I didn't want to sing,
Okay,
and guess what they made me do?
sing.
Yeah. That's on my YouTube too. We did a sketch, and it wasn't just singing. I had to play a Jewish person, and we had to sing about cancer.
Wow.
So I had to come up with a Jewish accent and sing in tune, and work on a voice in a Jewish accent.
And all that in a short, brief amount of time, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
And who
we did
judges
some
the
rehearsals and stuff.
quality of your improv? Only like other improv actors who are better than you? Is that how it works?
In the end, it's the audience.
Okay, so it's the audience.
In the end, it's the audience. Yeah.
Okay.
They're the last to judge.
And
really.
do you think this is an art that is still out there that has its
Oh
gathering?
yeah, there's a huge community.
So there is.
Yeah, there's one in Detroit, and there's a big one in Chicago,
How's
and a big
Windsor?
one in Toronto. They teach it in the schools. There's
Okay.
some improvisers in the town that used to do it. It's very, very small. Yeah,
But for me personally, I think it's a very valuable tool.
I agree.
I think it's as good as martial arts.
I
Same
agree.
thing.
I agree. That's why I got into it. I studied it like it was a master's program. Like back in the 90s, I traveled to Vancouver to study at Vancouver Theatre Sports.
Yeah, you're
I traveled to
dedicated. I can
Toronto.
see. You went to two different
Yeah.
schools.
Yeah, I didn't care about it if I had a job or not. I just went there
It's
and
just
found
your
the job
passion.
later to pay for it all.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you're passionate about this. And how can a person improv on their own, like a solo improv? How would you do that? That reminds me of mimes.
That's Robin Williams. Yeah,
oh, like you do like
he's-
comedy, like stand-up comedy,
he
basically.
came from improv,
Right.
but he can do stand-up also,
Right.
and just riff,
Right,
and he can interact with the audience.
right. So in terms of miming, is that anything that has to do with improv or no?
There's different disciplines. One of my teachers was she did clowning,
Okay.
so you get all kinds. There's like teachers, there's writers, there's clown, actors, comedians. You get all kinds taking improv.
So you can improv with any other discipline. So improv
Yeah,
is
it doesn't
a tool
matter who
you
you
can
are.
use anywhere.
It doesn't matter who you are.
Just like
I
when you said with the music, you can do
improv in its truest form is about creativity.
Do you think you have to be a creative person to get into improv, or improv can make you a creative person?
I think we all have it in us.
Okay.
It's left brain, right brain, right? It's just
So we-
exercise on one side.
We all can improv?
Yeah,
Can
just
I
practice
improv?
it. You got to work it. You got to work it.
Can you show me how I can improv right now?
You want to do one?
Yes.
Okay. Let's do a one word at a time story.
Okay.
Okay. So you say a word, I say a word, and then back and forth.
Tunnel.
So we have to make it has to make sense.
Okay.
Ready?
Tunnel.
Okay. So once.
Tunnel.
So you have to follow what I said.
Oh, you
so,
start-
So it has to make sense. So
Okay.
it's a sentence. Once. So what's a word after once that makes sense?
Twice.
3
Oh, so it has to make sense in a creative. Okay, so
Yeah. So
once.
for example, once upon a time.
Okay.
That's how you normally start. it.
Yeah.
So we'll do something different.
Okay.
So there.
There was.
So you say was.
There was a dog.
No, you say was, and then I say word.
Okay, there
So there
was
a
dog.
that
Barked.
at
Mick
he
wasn't
very
happy.
about.
Mick's. It's tough, eh?
Face.
And Mick was surprised.
That's one word.
And
That you can't plan ahead.
okay.
You can't plan ahead. You got to think in the moment, right?
Interesting.
What I say, you have to accept. You have no idea where it's going.
okay, and
Okay. It
wow, it's difficult. It jumped
up
on
his
leg.
rubbing
His
testicles.
Mick
Ran
away.
the
Dog
chased
him.
forever. And scene. So
Okay,
you get the
that
idea.
that
You get
needs
the idea.
practice.
You get the
That
idea.
needs
Yeah.
practice.
Yep.
But you know
But you
what?
got the idea now. I bet you the second time you do much better.
You know what's so fun about that? It's imagination. It's just like
That's
telling
right.
stories.
That's right. But don't think too hard.
Uh-huh.
Just be in the moment.
So, an
Sometimes
over-
the simplest word it helps. Just keep it going.
An overthinker.
Don't overthink.
won't
Just
be
keep
a
it
good
going.
improviser.
In that moment, keep it going.
That's the
Yeah.
key. And
Yeah.
you can't overthink an improv.
The funny moment will happen. Don't worry about it. Don't plan it.
From when I was thinking, it's not even about the funny. I was like, where's the story going?
Don't even think about that.
It's like, where's the
Just be in the moment. What makes sense at that moment and what would work in that moment.
right?
Yeah.
It's really fun. And
Yeah.
I guess there's improv with actions. Like it's not just
Yeah,
It's
there's
not
more.
just
There's a lot more.
story.
There's like simple exercise we do. Typical workshop class is we do warm-ups, and then we do some exercise just to get our brain working, and then we work on the games.
What kind of exercises to get your brain working? Like, give me an example.
Yeah, the clap focus. There's just two of us, but it works better when there's a group. So you just clap focus.
What's clap
So you have,
focus?
so when I clap and point to a person, that person has to clap and point to another person.
Oh, that speeds up your.
Yeah. So you're kind of watching, right? And you have to be in the moment clapping.
That's
For
fun.
example. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah,
You're really
simple.
inspiring
It's
me to get into improv.
something anybody can do.
You're inspiring me to get into improv.
I know we need more improv in the city. It gets people
should teach it.
socializing.
You should
It's
teach
a
it.
group thing. It's a group activity,
You should
and
teach it.
everybody who does it is finds it fun.
I really think you should have a workshop.
There
for
should be.
improv, and you should
should
teach
be.
it. You should
I
be
should.
the teacher. Improv/Aikido.
Maybe that's a thing now.
It's
Start a
fun.
meetup just to start. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
All right. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mohammed.
Yeah. No
Cool.
problem.
Yeah. Improvise.
It was fun.
All right. And scene.
Scene. It's very interesting. I really.